Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Casting the Spotlight episode number 164. And we are back to solo form.
Yeah.
And
in a couple episodes.
Yeah. Had some great guests on, some interesting conversations.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Varied conversations.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Even in Sam's episode, it's pretty varied, but we definitely went out of our realm of what we usually discuss on this podcast. Because I mean, for the most part, I want to come on here, I want to have a good time, I want to be able to. I mean, regardless, we also have this. Me and you just personally we can vent or say anything about anything if we really want to. But typically, we talk about our fandoms, and a lot of the things that's going on, and we'll talk about current events and shit like that too.
Yeah.
But
it's something major,
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of, you
Yeah.
saw that,
Yeah.
right? That airline and helicopter crashed into each other in DC.
Yeah.
What river they crashed? The Potomac River.
Something. It was like a Black Hawk. What? It was
the Reagan Rivers. Yeah, there's something.
The
like
helicopter
that.
or something. And
yeah, it was a military helicopter.
And the plane was coming from Wichita, Kansas, or something
yeah, it was
like that.
A commercial airliner and a army or military plane of some sort with 3 or 4 passengers on board, and everybody.
All together, there's a total right now that are reported. I don't know if that's everybody or not, but all 67. Honestly, though, it's probably a good thing we brought this up because that's a devastating situation.
That's
what's
horrible.
going on. And 67 people died, though. I think that's already confirmed.
Well, they said, that. Didn't they say basically it was all casualties? Nobody on board.
They did a search and rescue and looked for some people in the hours after. Because I flipped it on last night once I was told about it and shit, and I was just oh shit. Because I went over to my grandpa's for a little while. But I was oh shit. I didn't even see any of that stuff happening. But yeah, no, our heart goes out to that. I mean, that, all the families of those people, and if, who knows, some of those people might have had kids.
That's terrible, yeah.
I can't, that's a sudden thing, and it would be weird for people not to be talking about this, because that's a fucking absolute
Travis. Not.
That's a fucking absolute tragedy that many people fucking died. It was on our soil, on our fucking, that's a lot of people.
I'm sure the news networks are covering it majorly, but it's
I don't know why they wouldn't be
the biggest social media thing, maybe. But yeah, when I heard about that, I just had to look it up, and I was like, man, it just feels baffling. It's how in the world is that even possible to happen in 2025? How?
It didn't seem like it would have been, and obviously we don't have to go down that road or anything, but I'm that's way more news than somebody saying something that all that, who cares? This a bunch of fucking people just died from a crash.
A major
nothing
crash
that anybody's saying.
Air, of all things, too. Anytime there's
that's a
crash in the air, it's going to be devastating.
That was when they were trying to land. I'm pretty sure
because even when a plane is crashing on its own, or a helicopter, crash, it's devastating. But it's rare that 2 airline things
crash
into each other
in a plane.
And it was a helicopter and a commercial airliner. And it wasn't just a normal helicopter though. It was a military helicopter. So.
That was an airport. Right around there, where a lot of the people that come into DC for a visit and shit like that, that's where they go. Yeah, so it's that's where they go, and I'm this is where this happened. I'm what the hell is going on? And in case
passengers on their way into DC.
Yeah.
And that's the craziest part too is
in case just before we. In case when we release, in case whenever we release this, we know a lot more facts than we do now. Keep in mind that this is probably probably have a few new pieces of information by this point than we know right now.
Yeah,
but no, just to state that, because I'm we don't know everything yet. But I'm I just saw what I saw in the videos and then on social media and stuff, and I was this is fucking wild.
And that is because there is the airline navigation system, the people that
air traffic control
track that, and they let people know that are in the air with certain things. Hey, you know, this is in the area. So it just feels like it's definitely an error on air traffic control in DC. It has to be. Yeah, you can try to say, oh, you know, the helicopter, what the hell was it doing there? But like, if it wasn't told it couldn't go there, and
it looked weird. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, maybe there's flashing lights on a plane, but if it's in the middle of the night and that thing's moving that quick, like, come on.
I mean, it looked a little bit suspect the way the crash happened. Like, I didn't understand how the fuck, like, that would even happen.
I don't think I've seen footage of the actual crash.
But it's like, I saw, like, the helicopter, like, moving to, like, where the plane was. It was a weird, I don't know. I didn't look extensively into it myself, but I was like...
I mean, that kind of stuff is terrifying to me anyways.
But I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what it's about. Like, or what exactly happened, or what went wrong. But...
I mean, that's...
You know, I definitely... Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely feel for all the people affected by it.
Yeah, it does feel.
It was at least 67 is what I heard.
It should be talked about. So I was like, yeah, we know it's fresh, but we should probably bring it up.
Yeah, but yeah, that is really current news at this moment.
Yeah.
Whenever the news just dropped last night.
So yeah.
Just so you know, when we
hearts out to.
Oh yeah.
Everyone affected by that.
Yeah, hopefully they you know, they can kind of identify all the victims and the people that, you know, were supposed to come. I mean, obviously they know who was boarded, like, that plane and everything. So yeah. I guess we'll see more as the facts come out on it. It's the best I can.
You know, it's really those kind of things too. Like, that's a freak accident. But like,
is it?
I always here we can't go down.
No. Like, but we don't know much yet.
I know. But like,
I know. I don't know what any motivation to any of that would be. But like, let's see what happens with this information, because no, I don't have any reason to believe anything outside of that it was. But like, it's just really weird how like this even fucking happened. Like, 'cause this shit never happens. And the air traffic control is fucking excellent at all fucking times.
It's like, these are things where like my dad, for example, who, you know, recently turned 60, like. And he has yet to fly in his life, and he is scared of flying.
It's a safer form of travel than driving.
Well, technically, yeah.
It is.
But he's like, yeah, because everybody has a car.
Well, yeah, but I mean the odds are crazy. Like,
but how many fucking cars are on the road and how many planes are in the sky? Come on.
Well, no, I know, but like, even if you take the percentage, it's not close that a plane's not gonna fucking bite the big one on you whenever you're on it. But much less collide.
Terrified of that kind of thing happening. It's just like one of those irrational fears where he can't get over it. Where he's like, I just feel like, you know, being up there, like you're prone, like you are entirely vulnerable. You're like, you can't do anything for yourself at that point. And I'm like, I mean, I get that, but like,
you can't really do much if somebody's going 90 and T-boning you either, though.
Yeah, but
you're
I guess he means if you're behind the wheel, you can try to like navigate yourself out of a situation. At least you're planted on the ground. But like, I understand, but I it's laughable at times because I'm like, dude, come on, like, I do get what he means, but at the same time, no,
never.
Okay. My mom has. That's like when she was young.
He's not gonna do it now.
I have. He hasn't, and like he's even said when he retires, you know, oh, you know, me and your mom, we've talked about taking, you know, vacations here and here, and it's like you'd have to fly for him. So it's like, you know, but
dude, flying's better. It's like, okay, if it's like a reasonable length that you can either split or like do yourself, you know what I mean, like drive wise.
Not a super reasonable length, like. That's the thing. If it's not a super
dude,
reasonable
if it's 14
flight,
hours,
I'm
flying.
The only thing you can do.
I'm not sitting like, I mean, obviously, like we were talking about arthritis and shit like that. Eventually, like a couple episodes ago, you know, and we'll both have, you know, quite a bit to some degree.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's another reason. But I'm like, I'm not. If it's a 14-hour car ride, I'm fucking flying. If it's 12, I'm flying. Like if it's. I mean, like in most circumstances, like I'm just not doing it. I'm like, I don't want to sit there. I would rather get there in a much. I'm not saying car rides can't be interesting and entertaining, but like the way my body feels sometimes from those past events and shit, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to sit in the car that long if I don't have to. I'd rather get there in 4 hours. You know what I mean? Like that's why wouldn't you? Obviously, if you book a plane last minute, it's gonna be expensive. But like, if you know what kind of trip you're taking or where, it's easy.
We're from the Midwest in the United States, though, and I feel like it's just a thing here. Like being
road trip because they want to.
Being from
it's annoying.
Our region of states in the middle of this country, like the United States, like to travel anywhere, it is just like, oh, you're going northwest or northeast or north, like you're literally in the center. So it's like for some reason here, it's like a cultural norm. It's became a thing for people to be like road trip
because they don't wander out of their zip code in a lot of these fucking Missouri counties that we've had friends and and people like they don't, and I'm like, you guys gotta fucking get out and do other things and like see.
I feel like that's the thing with flyover states in general, though. Like if you're from a region in Kansas or Nebraska or Illinois or Iowa, like you kind of just, it becomes a life,
It also, it's just like in ways it could be a little cheaper either. Well, no, but like it's, I mean, in the safety thing is one concern, but I'm like, if I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, like obviously now and wanting to do, if it's like especially an extended length car ride or whatever, I'm like, I'm just gonna book a ticket. Like, why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? Yeah. It'd be way short. You don't have to spend a whole day driving. Oh, we gotta take one day here, one day, whatever. You don't have to do that. You just fly, and it's just easy. Not obviously that's a different comparing modes of transportation in the timing and stuff aspects different than if you have, a fear of one or the other or take, a long trip or whatever. But it's like, it statistically is the safest form. I mean, there's a lot of planes out there and like, yeah, there's way more cars, but these guys are experts of this shit. A lot of people that have a license and a car aren't. And, yeah. So it's just not likely to happen.
To be a commercial pilot, you have to be pretty damn good. And most of these guys and girls that are flying
and entrusted to take a trip,
flying a full passenger length plane of people, that like they have confidence in themselves doing that. I get the nerves behind it if you've never done it, but like also you have to entrust that the person that is doing it, whoever they are, they know what the fuck they're doing.
I hope so. Before they fucking fly my ass out of an airport, I really hope they do.
And they do. Yeah. Like they're not gonna be hired by fucking Southwest Airlines.
I've never been on.
Know what they're doing.
I've never been on a plane that didn't get there.
And that's you wouldn't. I mean, that's the thing. You could be sitting here talking to me, but like for the most part, you wouldn't be. And if you were, that's because the person that was flying really knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah. Or like if it's a plane that like you barely get off the, like the takeoff zone.
But like there's guys like Sully, that dude that landed in the New York Harbor or whatever. And he literally, that thing was crashing and he like spiraled it down into the New York Harbor and just coasted it in. And nobody got hurt, nobody died, everybody just walked off the wing skin onto a boat and got rescued.
Well, that fucking worked out for them. Ric Flair was in a fucking it was in a plane crash in like 1972, I believe.
Yep, that's why he always took when he bumped, he didn't land straight on his back.
Yeah, to do it on the side. Speaking of wrestling, before we go down these, we could probably have that conversation. The track we were sort of on for a while, but I'm like, we got the new segment to get to and everything. But I think it's time, and tonight, ahead of the Royal Rumble itself, even though this won't be like Royal Rumble based, this will be wrestlers from everywhere. Our category, comparing one to the other, is going to be fucking wrestling, man. Wrestlers.
Just wrestlers
Just-
straight up.
Everybody's on the board. We got a main, and we got everybody that he's going to go up against the gauntlet. This time it really applies to
People
gauntlet
are
thing.
like, oh wow, these two, I wouldn't have imagined they would
No.
ever go down this rabbit hole.
Believe it or not, this is like the 14th time we've done this segment, and wrestlers this is the very first time it's been chosen.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of crazy.
in case you think that,
Yeah, we've covered a variety of topics before you've actually landed on this one, so
we did.
it's been a minute. It's Mania season though now, so we might as well.
We
get
should.
into it.
And it is you first up, I believe.
Oh, all right. This ought to be interesting.
We have no idea who the other has either. Some of the main ones we come a little prepared,
Mm-hmm.
but we have no idea. But also, like, there's so many wrestlers we both know that there's just almost zero chance that we would pick the same guy.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a same person on the list of 10, but, you know,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Oh yeah, no that, but it's like especially as like the main. That's why I was like, let's
Yeah.
just say it on there.
All right. What do we got?
You're up.
Oh, I'm up to.
Is that what we're doing, or is it you?
Me? It
I don't
might be
know.
me. I mean, what did we do last time? Let me see here. We did music albums,
Yeah.
and I think I did go first last time.
Yeah.
So you would be the one to
'Cause
go
you-
first.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, then your main, the man that's gonna go up against the gauntlet.
10 men. It's gonna be brutal, man. This time gauntlet actually applies really. You know, a lot of wrestling gauntlets out there.
The man of the hour,
Oh boy.
John Morrison or Johnny Nitro.
Okay. Oh man.
So, he, like, I don't know, there was just an intrigue to him because I was like, he was like a mid-card talent that was really fucking talented.
He was one of the most polished mid-card talents ever, probably.
Yeah.
Like his move, to his like look, to his charisma, to his, what I'm saying, like drawing heat. He was good at like all that stuff. I wouldn't say like, I mean, his physique was, tremendous.
Phenomenal,
Like he was absolutely great, but in a lot of ways he was always solid to be like over enough in like a good way, or a heel. But it wasn't like he was a crazy merch mover or people bought a ticket for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was always exceptional at what he did, but he wasn't.
Shaman of sexy.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't like move into the next like realm, which neither.
He
did.
was cool. Though.
Neither did fucking 99.98% of all wrestlers. So
Yeah. But he was cool. And
he was. No, I liked him. I always liked him.
All right. So John Morrison or Johnny Nitro, whatever you prefer, or Drew McIntyre.
Okay. This is gonna be a weird like list too, because like every time we do the wrestlers, I mean it could be a completely different jumbled up group of people. You know what I mean? Like from different eras, different. I mean, I view Drew more as a main event talent than I ever have viewed Johnny. And I mean, I don't know. They both have a lot of. They both have a lot of reasons why they're kept out of necessarily being the guy, but they're also both like incredibly over and
Both great talents.
They are.
Both have their thing.
I would maybe take Drew, at least right now, at least a little bit over him because of.
I like
especially
Braveheart, so I'd pick Drew.
Yeah, especially Braveheart the movie.
Yeah.
I was literally just talking like to my grandpa about this too, and he said the same thing. Like all the movies I've seen, I don't think I've ever in my life, unless we watched it, American History through films, I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's
and that's one of the biggest
that's
movies.
Another one I just recently rewatched, but I watched that like my teenage years, and I rewatched it recently, and I'm like, when it just comes to like swords and shields, like historical epics, I'm like, that's a damn good movie.
It's considered like most people look at it as like Mel Gibson's best, and like
Apocalypto, he wasn't in that
He's got
one,
some great ones.
but he directed Apocalypto, and that's a fucking good movie, dude.
Mel, hey, he's another fucking legit. He's not one of these creeps. He's like McConaughey. He actually fucking.
I mean, he's had his fair share of problems,
yes,
for sure.
But they're not they're not like fucking like that.
But I don't mind. Like, when it comes to, like, I won't discredit Mel's problems as being like, yeah, he's had his fair share of issues, but I do
not
think
a fucking
Mel,
legality issue for the most part.
Yeah.
It's I'm not saying this is nothing, but it's some of them were only like domestic issues, which I've also known fucking like half the population is motherfucking had.
Yeah.
And those were like the gist of some of the stuff that I knew that he was involved in.
And I mean, I also know
With his,
like
ex-wife.
Jewish people have not the best outlook on him, and like
Well, yeah.
things like that. So like, I like take a certain, walk when I talk about him, but I'm like, when it like a director too, like when it just comes to like filmmaking and being an actor, like when it comes to film, he's a talented person.
Oh yeah.
Like he knows what he's doing.
But his shit didn't like. This is the difference. Is like not that it wasn't problems with like a lot, not even to get into. It's so funny that Mel Gibson like somehow that would come up. I was literally talking to them.
Just Drew
last night.
Like he's just like he is kind of like Braveheart. He's a Scottish warrior. And
last night, like we literally were talking about that and like him and stuff, and I'm like, not that he doesn't have those, but I'm like he didn't do anything. I'll say that like made me cringe per se, like a lot of the other motherfuckers. Okay, well then a lot of these other motherfuckers need to be buried under the fucking prison.
He's Kanye West kind of cringy. You know what I mean? Where he's like, he's outspoken and he said some shit where you're like, bro, you shouldn't be saying that.
But he's still gonna have an audience base no matter what he says.
But I don't hate him. You know what I mean?
No, he's not. But no, he did. No, if you
I
looked
think
at it,
he's talented at what he does.
He is.
I'll give him that.
But the reason I also bring it up is because I just watched this movie on Netflix called what the hell was it called? It was like about him on the radio show, and like some dude named Gary. He's like he's like a radio show host. Mel is, and he like calls in and he's just like, I feel like I'm gonna do something crazy tonight, and then hours later he calls back in like just a creepy like Zodiac shit like that he would do, and then he's just like, I've got your family and stuff. He like calls back on the radio and he answers it again as the radio host, and then it just kind of escalates from there. Like if you want to watch, it's actually pretty fucking entertaining. Like I was into it, but it's kind of like, I guess, I don't know if they say it's a horror. It's kind of more like a thriller, I would say. But it was definitely pretty original too. I was just like, what the hell was that? It did not go the way I thought it was gonna go. That's for sure. But anyways, I don't think, and that's the thing. I haven't seen a lot of his work either, but from what I have seen, I'm like, he doesn't seem like that bad. I'm like, and that's the other thing. He fucking also has produced some great stuff as a creator, viewing him even just through that lens. But even as a guy, I'm like, he's probably not like, you're not going to be like, okay. But that stuff doesn't make me nearly as concerned as all this other bullshit that I fucking hear. I'm like that,
Yeah, I mean, he's problematic in his own ways, but...
Or has been in the past. So a lot of his stuff, I read that it was with his, like, ex-wife, though. This stuff that fucking happened. But he also made...
like, some things he said and whatnot in the past, like, he's... I'm not going to stand for everything that he stands for, but, like, I'm also going to say...
I don't know what he stands for.
Braveheart and Apocalypto are two damn good films.
Oh, yeah. Well, Fat Man was good, but you need to check out that one on Netflix. You need to check out that one on Netflix, too. You know his other movies that I've never really... We need to get back to the segment, but... that I've never really seen, though, I've never seen any of the Lethal Weapon movies.
Never. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have either.
Really?
Actually.
But he was box office, and another reason he's controversial is because don't forget, he was the director of Passion of the Christ. And that drew an extreme amount of controversy to
Well, he's doing a sequel of that.
It
should come out next year, I think, Passion of the Christ. He's going to do the Resurrection of Jesus in this one. Like,
is he?
if you think the backlash of the Passion of the Christ,
and that was in 2004.
Can you imagine? And how much backlash that Mel Gibson's name gets, anyways, doing a film that he's going to direct about the resurrection of Jesus. That's going to draw some backlash. I'm going to see it.
Yeah. No, honestly, I want
to see it.
You know, we were talking about Martin Scorsese with the whole The Last Temptation of Christ, but if you look it up, it got like good ratings.
I mean, because he's a good filmmaker.
But like that was a highly controversial movie when it came.
He's made 2 religious films too. The other one I like really want to see too is Silence, because it's kind of reminds me of Shogun that just came out, because it's like missionaries that travel to Japan in like the 1600s, and they're facing like serious ridicule for Christianity and shit. But like The Last Temptation of Christ, he got ridiculed because it was like he was portraying Jesus as like he was showing Jesus as human qualities, and it got like Catholics and people mad because they're like, well, you're not focusing on like the Savior aspect of Jesus, but he was focusing more on like, well, if Jesus was God's human son, he would be a human, so it would be like the temptations he would still face. He would face temptations of like not wanting this role, and temptations of women and power and things like, and people. I mean, obviously, but it was adapted from a book, anyways. It's not like it was an original story that he made. It was like the book got major backlash, and then he made a film about the book. So, but he's a great filmmaker, so obviously he's going to make it in a way that is going to be like, if you actually watch it, you're going to feel relatable enough to it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like he's going to make Jesus out to be some asshole. Like, it's not,
that would be insane to make something that was the case.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's hateful towards religion even.
It would be
so it's crazy that it got that kind of backlash because he's a religious guy.
Like that would be insane for anyone to make that. It would be like if you weren't fucking like fucked in if you have an afterlife or whatever, like you're like that no matter where but it's like, why would you even do something like that? It'd be crazy to do that.
Yeah. Just
people would want to bury that person.
The antagonist of a film.
It wouldn't even make sense.
You're like, I think I'm gonna make Judas the protagonist. That would be fun.
It would be so 2025 is what it would be, and not in a good way. Wow, we got way off there.
So you took Drew McIntyre, I believe.
Yeah.
Over Johnny.
I probably would. In a lot, in part because he was able to eclipse that mid-card title picture and go, to the main event. And I think Drew has maybe some of that's his size, but he does have a draw about him that is pretty. The one thing I think they lack is sometimes they're directionless with him. It's like sometimes they have him doing the best shit in the company, and then other times they're like, well, for 3 months, well, we'll just have you fucking float around. It's like, dude,
go out there and just
stop.
Fucking swing that sword around and
beat
guy's ass.
Put him in something like meaningful, whether it's for a belt, whether it's not. The Punk thing was the best thing last year, and there's no belt really that was part of it, other than whenever Punk.
He stayed away from the belt that whole time though, which makes me think that if Punk wins the belt, he'll probably enter the picture again. Yeah,
and at some point, it could even be with Punk as champion. Seth and Drew will both re-enter, and we're gonna get a triple threat match at some point. It'll happen down the road sometime. I don't know when, but yeah, just so we can continue on. Yeah, definitely. Probably say Drew, at least by a little bit. I like Johnny a lot though.
Yeah. All right. So 1 against John Morrison. So John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, or Beth Phoenix. Throw a women's wrestler in there. Mm. She was kind of like ahead of her time, really.
She was.
But she was a badass.
She's came back though, and she was impressive even for them. Yeah. I liked her, and I could see why she was women's champion for a good, length of time.
Yeah.
She was pretty dominant there for a minute.
I mean, because if you really looked at the roster around her, it was like, who would believably beat her?
Yeah.
You know?
There was like a whole lot of like Candice Michelle's.
Yeah.
And then like her. I mean, like some of those like women I liked like a lot, like Melina. She was like super athletic.
Melina was good.
And she was, she was cool. But,
yeah, it was like, oh, Divas Championship match, Beth Phoenix or Kelly Kelly. It was like, well, I mean, who do you think in a stand-up fight's going to win this match?
People like Kelly Kelly, but she was going to get her ass whooped by Beth. That being said, I probably would maybe say Johnny or a little bit over Beth. I like Beth. But I'd probably say I watched more of Johnny's career overall. Like, I watched him in other places, I mean, he lasted a little longer, though, but I did enjoy whenever Beth, like, came back to, team with Edge and stuff like that. And they did those matches with Maurice, and, like, Maurice was another one that was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she
Trish was, like, pretty much gone by that point, but Mickie James.
Mm-hmm.
So, Victoria, like, there was quite a few in that, like, era, too.
They didn't really get shit, but that was the thing. Like, I feel like Beth was actually like
she was having matches.
She was ahead of her time because she was pretty talented. Yeah.
Like it was her kicking a lot of ass.
Yeah,
but it was like she had matches that were, but they also she has some decent length matches though too. I remember her like wrestling all the time on Raw, and I'm like she was a credible champion for sure.
Yeah.
So, what do you got next?
All right, so 1-1. John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, or Bam Bam Bigelow.
Probably Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Bam Bam.
I like Bam Bam.
He's super impressive. Yeah.
And he was
especially for his era, but like being as big as he was and doing some of the top rope shit and whatnot was like wild.
He wasn't the greatest talker, but he wasn't about that. He had some size. He had a look for sure.
Oh yeah.
And he had athleticism for a big guy. Like he could do fucking flips and shit. But yeah, I would probably say Morrison a little bit over him.
All right.
But I like Bam Bam. Yeah. You gotta be a tough motherfucker to get that tattoo on the top of your head.
That shit would hurt.
Oh yeah. Skin's thin as fuck up there.
It's straight skull. It fucking hurt.
Oh yeah.
All right, so 2-1 in favor of John Morrison. So Johnny Morrison or Finlay.
Johnny.
Not a Finlay guy.
I'm not necessarily like against Finlay, but I mean,
he had some cool matches. His character was. When he had Hornswoggle, it was the best.
Every fucking Friday Night SmackDown in 2007, every goddamn main event was Finlay versus Kane. Every fucking week. It was like a combo.
That was dope, man.
Kane and The Undertaker would beat up on Finlay and MVP like every fucking week. Every week. I mean, it was cool to see that. You liked that era a lot, like obviously. Like 07 was a pretty fun year though in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, I feel like that was pretty cool. Although, that was also all the fucking Benoit stuff and not to go down all that road. But that was also like a lot of suspensions and stuff because they started testing hardcore for all the all the stuff that they were using.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was necessary, but like it was kind of a rocky road too.
06 was maybe better than 07.
The first part of the year was dope in 07.
Yeah.
But then all that shit happened and then wrestling was fucking put under the proverbial fucking, kill cam.
Yeah.
It was just like, fuck,
like a year.
Fuck wrestling. Like everybody was just wanting to attack it. It's like, man, we don't all do this shit.
So you would take John over Finlay though? Yeah.
For sure. Finlay was a good worker though, and he had a lot of he
did have some good match. He was a great worker. He like trains.
A lot like William Regal, except William Regal's fucking one of the best.
Yeah.
I mean, and not like the Finley's not. You can learn a lot from him, but he's, you know, like you say, he's a trainer. He probably is
now. Yeah.
The wrestling community, man, like whenever guys enter that, like they don't leave for a long time. Like when they become established, just you always have some job or role within the business. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What does that make it count? 3-1.
3-1.
Oh man.
So Johnny Nitro, or Brian Pillman.
Dude, Pillman was a bad son of a bitch. I remember I said that quote, and whenever Alex like was on Nickoloff, you know, and he's just like, "You're gonna pillage and what?" to the fucking, or no, this entire generation. Because he like played that like Cobain like character almost, like except just
he was like a grunge
fucking
kind of wrestling psychopath.
He was awesome at his role though, for sure. And honestly, like if Pillman had been a little healthier, you know, obviously, you know, he would have been, he would have lasted a little longer, you know, and his life would have been cut so short. But I mean, he was the loose cannon, man. There's a legend to him in a lot of ways because it felt like his time was cut so short.
Well, it seemed like he was a flame just waiting to be extinguished. Kind of, anyways, you know.
Oh yeah. From the time he entered the fucking business, his candle was fucking lit, and he was just ticking.
Yeah.
But you know, his time there, I feel like he was incredibly talented. Even when he couldn't wrestle and his leg was all fucked up, like he came out and gave that promo on like crutches, and he was talking all this shit. And
it's probably high on pills.
But he was so like over with the crowd though. Like people reacted to him like
that gun segment with fucking Stone Cold.
That shit was the end of '96. That shit was wild. But they were the Hollywood Blondes, which is what makes it really cool. Back in the heyday of WCW, like the old school, really not the heyday at all, but like, you know, 90, 91, 92 and shit. And that was cool. Like them as a team. So the gold chain that Steve wore for a long time, like Pillman got him that whenever they were a tag team. But yeah, I mean, I watched more of Morrison's era live, you know, than I was able to see Pillman's. I would maybe say Pillman for the legendary status more so, and put him over.
So Pillman get the nod a little bit.
Yep.
All right, so 3-2. So John Morrison or China. The legend, bro.
Yeah,
you gotta say the legend.
I mean, she broke so much ground, especially at a point where you know, I don't remember what year it was. Maybe like it was just after Medusa left and all that stuff, and then threw the championship in the trash in WCW, like the women's division. And then for years, like because some of the old school women, like you know, Fabulous, everybody was getting Moolah and shit. Like they were all getting so either old or like some of the generations after that, like there was like no up and coming like women, and they hadn't even done the, you know, the fucking poster girl thing yet, where they're like, oh, this is what she's gonna be, and she's gonna attract all the guys, and the, you know, that was the counterculture era and stuff too.
Yeah.
But like it was weird because there was like a little era in like the mid '90s where women in WWE weren't like, their job wasn't that yet, and to be, oh, you know, attract all the dudes into like wanting to see you and stuff because you're hot kind of thing, and it wasn't like the women really wrestling yet. And then she entered kind of like right at the tail end before they like started kind of wrestling again, and the championship came back, and then like Trish and Jacqueline and, you know, the Cat and like a whole lot of different, you know, like they started entering before, like, you know, Lita and like a lot of those other girls that we were mentioning got there. And then there was a revitalization, and then obviously we knew what happened. It died down again, and they were getting 30-second matches. And then it, you know, the last obviously many years it's been more. Yeah, but there for a minute, like she entered during a time when she was fucking just going back to China, like she was just jacked and like she was like Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley's bodyguard.
Yeah, like DX's bodyguard.
Yeah, and then they formed DX because she debuted, you know, or like with him one week, and then they had like an on-air relationship, and then DX was formed, and she was a big part of that. It was like them three, and like Rick Rude was just like the manager, like kind of sitting there. And then he like debuted for WCW like just days later, maybe even the next night or something like that after an event, which is crazy because they're like, oh fuck, he flipped. He was another defective during the Monday Night War. But no, China, like, especially in an era where she debuted, it was a while before she got to work. But then even when she got to work, like at WrestleMania 17, when she came back in storyline wise, the match that was billed with Ivory.
Yeah.
Another badass, like, because they actually had a good story, like, almost a year before then, even, this was Attitude Era still, too, at WrestleMania 17 in 2001, whenever, like, you know, Ivory legitimately, I think a move was botched, but they built it into the storyline where she pile drove China, and then something fucked up in her neck, and then 9 months, a year, you know, however long later, like, she came back, China, like, earned her title shot, and, like, you know, and Ivory was just kind of stacking all the odds against her and shit. But then China, like, just whooped her ass at Mania. And it was, like, dope because, like, the match was probably only, like, 7 minutes. But the story they told to lead there, it didn't matter how long the match was. Like, the fact was, like, you know, she did this, like, she injured China and took her out for almost a damn year. And then China came back and fucking literally took the women's division back and won the belt. It was, like, it was dope. I'm like, that's another reason why 17... there's so many reasons, but it's so fucking epic. Because she was still around at that time.
Yeah, she left shortly after.
Yeah. You know, and that was all, you know, obviously a sad story and stuff too, but I mean, she was breakthrough, like she, you know, she's like the only woman to ever hold the Intercontinental Championship too. Whenever she was feuding with like Eddie and Chris Jericho and Jeff Jarrett.
Because the women have their own now. So.
Yep. But no, she was, she kind of, I don't want to say in the same sense she was, because Beth was ahead of her era, but I wouldn't even say China. I think China was like a really necessary component before they like reintroduced them, you know, like the women's like championship again.
Yeah, she broke
during that era.
Sure.
And then whenever she was there and then they started acquiring like more, you know, female talent and everything, it was kind of like, well, of course she's going to wrestle now because there's the women's division's back and the women's title's back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of some of this, you know, some of the stuff and the semantics of what was going on during the time, it was like they were like, okay, well, at least bringing the title back, and then they had women compete and everything for it, and you know, it only made sense that she was going to fucking win the belt at least a few times whenever she was still there.
Yeah.
And then that all was controversial too, but no, China was. She was absolutely like one of the ones that broke ground in, you know, WWF.
She's also probably the only like one of the only female bodyguards to a male wrestler.
It's kind of funny though, just like Shawn and like pulling his. I mean, obviously, you know, it was Diesel, but he was like tough as fuck, and Shawn would just act like an asshole because he knew that he had like a big ass dude to protect him.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it played right into like the DX thing and stuff, but no, yeah, she was absolutely a star. I mean, the crowd went crazy. The crowd was insane, like reaction wise in the Attitude Era in general, but like, I mean, they loved China.
Yeah.
They really did.
All right, so it's 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
So John Morrison or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It's a classic.
Yeah. Oh no, he
Legend.
is. He is for sure.
Really, when I think of him though, like the two main matches that come to mind are Mania 3, obviously, Macho Man, and then 25. The handicap with Jericho.
He had a fucking thousands of matches with Ric Flair, like back, you know, in WCW and just way back when.
It was just
and
like
he's one of the legends,
like,
man.
For some reason, off the top of my head, I'm like, when I'm thinking quick Ricky Steamboat. That's like the two right off the top that I think of.
Mm-hmm. See, and obviously this is another one where I have seen quite a few Steamboat matches too, but I mean, I obviously have seen a lot more of the Morrison Nitro like era.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that he's done. I think in a way too, if you're just presenting them, like to me, it feels like. Doesn't it feel like Ricky might be a little more main event quality picture than like the normal roster that like Morrison would be on? Or I mean,
yeah,
I mean, like, I don't know. Not to take anything away from Morrison.
If Morrison was in that era, he probably would have been that guy. But Ricky was kind of in an era too where it was a little more thin. You know, the ground was a little more thin, and the rise of the top wasn't. I mean, it was I'm sure a much more cutthroat, bitter locker room, but like the rise of the top wasn't as. You didn't have to cross as many guys necessarily to get there. You just had to have like a captivating character. The dude blew fire, you know? Like,
it was sick.
He was cool though. The dragon was a sick gimmick.
Yeah, no, it was.
And it fit him and it fit the era, you know?
The Macho Man. That's one of the most legendary matches.
Oh yeah, it's a great match.
I'm gonna probably like lean towards Morrison for recency bias purposes.
Yeah.
But I do respect Ricky and, you know, a lot of stuff he's done. Because honestly, that could have really went either way. Even though it's weird because it would have went either way, but I know they are not close to the same guy. You know what I mean?
No,
I'm not even saying they're, you know, in that way. But I'm like, I could have made a case for myself to prefer. But like, this is one of the situations in the segment, like those are two people you never would have thought to compare.
Yeah.
You know? And your list so far, this is some wild shit. For more than one reason. Fucking.
Oh, you got some people on
a couple of them. I'm like, what the fuck?
All right. Well,
you looked at my list. It would not have benefited either one of us.
Johnny Nitro or Doink the Clown.
This is one of those that you're like, oh man, I love Doink.
Dude, Doink. Yeah, he was original as fuck. Let's be real. Nobody, like, okay. Like,
what about Dink?
Yeah, Dink was too, bro. Dink and Doink as a duo? Come on.
Oh, man. Would you have put the titles on them?
I mean, depending on the era of the tag team division.
In
maybe.
the 80s?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Throw them on.
They probably did. I don't know when they did. Oh, man. No, but Doink was a pretty fucking legendary character.
Yeah, I mean.
He played by a lot of different guys.
Yeah. The original.
Matt Bourne was the original.
Problems,
yeah.
You know, but he was the OG. So.
Yeah.
Kudos to him.
That's sick, though. That dark side of the ring, though, when they were talking about Doink, and he was like, somebody like went up to get him, like somebody was after him for whatever reason. He had like a tub, and he said like embroidered into, not, you know, however, but like it was put into the fucking, engraved into the fucking tub was like Doink the Clown. It was like, part of it was like almost like gold or something with a fucking, it was like a crazy looking thing, like apparently.
Rimmed, like,
and he was just up there with his like face paint on, like smoking a cigarette in the bath. Like, just fucking.
That's cool, bro.
Yeah, I know.
It's fucked up. It's weird, but it's like,
it is like he was just.
It's one of those things. It's like if that was a movie visually.
Oh yeah,
fuck yeah.
In the with the hair, with the makeup, smoking a cigarette, getting a bath in your house, in your tub that says fucking Doink the Clown.
Somebody
like
should make a Matt Bourne movie.
Yeah, it sounded fucking. I'm like that. Sounds like he was just living his life, man. Just smoking in his tub.
That's the thing. A lot of guys too were kind of like, oh damn it, you know, I got to be doink. Or if they just were like backstage talent, whatever. Oh, you know, they were a trainer. Oh, I guess I'll be doink tonight. But like Matt Bourne, he was like, fuck yeah, like he embraced that was him. You know, he became Doink the Clown. It was his character. You know.
He did.
So he almost felt like the most true Doink the Clown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he probably was. And then occasionally, even through like the late 90s and early 2000s or whatever, they would have somebody dress up as him or just, you know, do whatever. You knew by then it was somebody different.
Even through the 2000s and I think even as late as the 2010s, he's appeared.
Yeah, he was in that gimmick battle royal in fucking Mania 17.
Yeah. He wasn't Dink in the miniature battle royal?
Probably. He also was on one of the Survivor Series teams of like Doink and his fucking crew against whoever.
It was the
Little Beaver
Doink and Dink team versus fucking Lawler and his team.
Were they midgets?
His team of I think so. I think it was midget wrestling. I think it was Doink's team of Dink and midget dinks. And
the year that I moved to Florida, I could have went to go see a midget wrestling show with fucking.
We could see one here if we wanted
with
to.
Cheatham
every now and then.
And Corey, my dad, and everybody. And I'm like, it was like right before. It was like 3 days before I moved, and but I didn't see it. I think you had to be like a certain age though. Actually, it was kind of wild.
It was probably they probably go extreme, bro. They probably launch them. It's probably like fucked up in a way, but like,
they're making money.
I mean, also
they're drawing dollars.
They probably, they wouldn't be there if they didn't want to be. You know what I mean? That's that kind of thing where I'm like, and this is a whole other rabbit hole, but like, and I know certain things. It's like, oh, you know, this is fucked up or that's fucked up, but like you said, like people make money doing certain things, but also like, I don't know, like whenever people talk about certain movies or like, oh, you know, they sexualized this character, this girl, or oh, you know, they're making fun of this circus performer, this or that. It's like, they're making money off this. And they wouldn't have taken this role if they didn't want to. It's not like there's the will to be there. You know what I mean? Like they personally got booked for this and accepted it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
it's the thing is like Sable. They're like, okay, they're like this is gonna sell because like so many men come to this show and she looks hot. And everybody's gonna find her sexy and all this other stuff. So like they put her poster on everything, and it sold like fucking wildfire because like that's what it was. And they were like, man, like she was positioned as like their, you know, but it was like the way they were doing business. You know what I mean? At the time, it's like I don't think you should be ashamed of being hot. Like what the fuck? Like what the hell are we talking about here? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And like
I get, you know, certain storylines certainly being like cringe and stuff now with some of that stuff.
You know, but even her at the time, you know, regardless of like later on, because I know there was some sort of falling out, and then she was hired back, and then everything, you know, there was just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but she did kind of like.
But she embraced that. She like that was kind of Sunny at first, and Sunny was a little more, at least initially, like more innocent. It was just kind of like, you know, this cute girl or whatever.
Sunny ended up being fucking insane.
Yeah. And then Sable was like, whenever Sable came around, everybody was like, just brushing Sunny off, and they were like, God damn, like, they wanted to see Sable. Like, the audience was all about Sable.
Which, you know, it, like, not to even take us down that path, but it is like, I always have felt bad for Sunny. Like, I'm like, dude, that is kind of like a tragedy of a story. Because, and she, you know, she was probably like kind of a snake. The way that, you know, what was it, Chris? Who was
Chris
it?
Candido.
Yeah,
it was her boyfriend even before he got her into the business.
His story was sad as fuck too. It seemed like he kind of really got fucked over by her and different things, different elements. But like her story individually was just like, damn, man, because like when she did come into the business, like she really was, you know, like she was just some cute young girl, like she really was. And then, I mean, being just, and it's horrible to even like say that, but being in that locker room too, in that era of just like these 90s dudes fucking like lifting weights, doing drugs and steroids and drinking a fuckload all the time, like this is not going to be a good male influence in a fucking locker room, obviously. You know?
Well, and not to mention, it wasn't like there was a whole lot of other like female talent necessarily on the roster then, you know what I'm saying, like then. So it's like it wasn't like it was going to be, you know, and she was like, I think she was doing fine for like a long time, but the problem is too is he wasn't, the fact that he wasn't like an upper card guy, it kind of like was rough because...
It fucked him over big time too.
Because she would be like in the back intermingling with other wrestlers and doing, you know, whatever, whenever he was out like literally having his matches because they weren't like together then, you know what I mean? And it was kind of just like, oh boy. But yeah, that is, because it's like if she's not going out to the ring with you, or that's storyline even, you know, whatever, because she was with him for a while.
And that's the thing though, that's just a human element thing. It's like, it was really, you know, his dream, and then like she ended up being the more popular one, and it's just kind of like, damn.
And he brought her in. They wanted her on TV because they saw her, like her with him, and they're like, is she a wrestler? Is she like in the business at all or whatever? And they just thought she was like, you know, videogenic, like she was gonna pop off the screen, and like they were right, is like, you know, they're like, oh, we gotta hire her and stuff, and they gave her a job and everything, and but yeah, that'd be wild because she didn't even have to do anything. She was just with him one of the days,
and that's like, it's the kind of thing too where you hear one side of a story, or you kind of like just think of something one-sided and jump dogpile on something. Like I remember,
I don't shame her, by the way, for getting the job. It's like if they're like, oh fuck, you're attractive, you want to be on TV, you'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna take the job. Yeah. Why wouldn't? Who wouldn't take that job?
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
But like I remember when Billie Eilish got big, like I think, you know, she was like 18 or something when she blew up, and her boyfriend was like also a musician, like making music. He was like a hip-hop artist or something like that, and she blew up, you know, and he did not blow up, and like he, you know, he kind of had that jealousy thing going, and like they ended up like breaking him and stuff. And I remember everybody kind of like dogpiling on this guy, and oh, you know, like this guy's an asshole and stuff, and he should be happy for his success, and he should be. But I'm like, dude, think about just be a human for a second. Think about it. You know, like, regardless, male, female, whatever it is, like, if this is your dream, this is what you want to do, and like your partner, the person that you do spend a lot of time with and you've shared all your dreams with, and like they've shared yours with you, and they end up making it and you didn't really make it, and you see all the success that they're reaping and winning all these Grammys and going on tour, making millions of dollars, and you're still like slumming around trying to break through. Like, dude, anybody is gonna be like jealous as fuck, you know? Like at the end of the day,
yeah, I mean, it would
be impossible
to
not be like, dude,
that's the kind of situation.
Why the fuck is this not me?
That's the kind of situation where it's just like, yeah, this relationship's not gonna last long.
Yeah,
it just won't. Like if you can't see how you would get to that from
and
that,
it's sad too, because I mean, like, if you both were doing it together and rising together, like trying to break through together, one of you did. Like, and I do like Billie too. Like, I'm not like shaming her or anything, but like it felt like all her fans are like, oh, he's an asshole for like the way you treated her after that. And it's like, I mean, kind of, but also like any human would react like that. Like if that is the dream you're chasing, and you see right in front of your face somebody else achieve everything you wanted, it's gonna really fucking bum you out.
Yeah. No, I didn't hear that.
That's why I think Chris Candido's
It would be
is, like,
hard.
a fucking tragedy. Really.
Oh yeah, it would be hard to be that close to it and for it not to irritate you. You know what I mean? Like it would be, you know what I mean?
Or you could almost also hold like envy, but also like anger at the person too for like, well, you're this, like it's shitty to even think like that. It'd be like, well, you're this level now, like can't you help me out? Like book me a gig, fucking make me an opener, do me a solid somewhere.
Yeah. Who knows?
But yeah, Chris Candido and Sonny both.
They had some
Sad,
issues.
bro.
But then all that stuff happened, and then they got back together, like, you know, like getting shows and stuff, bookings, and then, you know, just as a couple too, like later on down the road. And then obviously, you know, he passed and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was also sad. He didn't want to do, you know, and even Jim Cornette was saying that for all his, you know, stuff too. But like Jim even said, he's like, this kid didn't do, and that's why I broke him up. He's like, this kid didn't do anything wrong to anybody. And like this was his life, and this is how this, you know, turned out.
Yeah.
And which was, you know, brutal, I think, for a lot of people to kind of witness. What do we got?
So did you say for Doink or Johnny?
I'm gonna say Johnny.
Johnny.
Doink.
So that makes it what, 4-4, I believe.
Yeah, probably.
All right. So John Morrison or Christian.
Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Christian's a better talker. Like Christian was in more like legendary matches. Christian was always a solid worker. I always thought Christian was, I'm not saying he was going to be capable of being like a mega star, but I always thought Christian was a little bit underrated, you know?
Yeah. I definitely thought he was always underrated.
Yeah.
And even the time he got a world title, it got stripped from like immediately.
That was fucking dumb. But yeah, Christian.
All right.
For show.
5-4. This will be the decider. John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, or DDP.
Probably Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was over like a motherfucker, man.
In WCW, he was one of the guys.
Never joined the NWO. Always a pretty flashy, pure, you know, he was a babyface too.
His theme song was pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically
he had some
like
badass
Smells
hair.
Like Teen Spirit with like some kind of mix to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had some cool hair. He got into the game late too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was like a pro at like 35.
Yeah.
But
helped a lot of guys after.
He did. And that's it, like as much, if not more impressive, like his life outside of the ring, you know?
Yeah.
As in, I mean, he's like helped these guys fucking sit, you know. It gave Scott Hall an actual like life to live, and you know the rest of his years after he got
Jake
ill.
the Snake too.
Yeah. Obviously, Jake's still with us.
Yeah, both those guys, like, they were two of the like most severe cases of like, oh, these guys are.
Dude, Hall
really
showed up
on a bad path.
in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And it was like, this dude's like, he was like 49 or 40, you know, whatever. It was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You shouldn't be in a wheelchair right now. You know, but he was just struggling, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, DDP has to be, like, and he wouldn't let them quit on themselves either, like, has to be a great fucking dude, I feel like, just to help all these people out. Like, and not even just the people suffering with those kind of issues, or the drugs, or the, you know, walking, you know, whatever, mobility. But then some other people he's helped out, like, to extend their, you know, every day and make them more active, like Mick, or like Chris Jericho, or like people like that. And he's helped just doing his, like, method. He's helped all those guys out.
Yeah. And
they don't have to, like, I mean, you still want to lift weights sometimes, but like they don't have to do as much of that in their older age if they can't, you know, if they don't have the time or don't want to have to do it, and really. They can just do his stuff. Which, I mean, you know, if you can, especially, I would think that lifting weights is one of the first things you want to do.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
I mean,
one of the
also,
best things you can possibly
getting
do.
your mobility back, though, is a big part
Oh, yeah.
of being able to.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's for sure. What does that make it? 5-5?
6-4. We're out of favor.
Oh, okay, yeah. Out of favor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I like DDP.
Yeah,
You want to know
he's
yours?
a legend. Yeah, let's go for it.
Category wrestlers, and we have gotten, as your main guy here, we got Shane McMahon.
No boy. Ready to kick the ass of some of this competition.
He probably is, yeah. All right, first up, we got Shane O'Mac. Here comes the money.
Honestly, dude, Shane.
We should-
the most fire matches of all time.
We should we should come back in with fucking the money. Shane McMahon or Jeff Jarrett?
Shane McMahon.
Do you have any comments on Jeff?
I mean, I really
He's
don't.
still wrestling.
I don't mind Jeff.
And he's still
at
in good
all.
shape.
Yeah, he's in great shape. I mean,
He's like
he's got
56.
some good stories. You know, he's been in the wrestling business his whole life. His dad was a promoter. He's been around it forever. Like, I didn't think Jarrett, even in the mid-90s, was bad. Like, country star Jeff Jarrett beat, he lost to Shawn, lost the title to Shawn in your house, Intercontinental title. But he had that, like, country star character. I didn't hate that.
Yeah.
His slap nuts character in WCW, that wasn't horrible. Like, he's had some eras for sure.
Yeah.
But that being said, just dude, Shane McMahon, I respect the fuck out of that guy. Like,
Oh, dude, he's awesome.
like, he didn't have to do any of the shit he did. That guy did some of the most like jaw-dropping stunts of all time in WWE. So
I think a lot of it had the need to prove himself, though, to his father.
Oh, fuck him. You were never gonna be able to prove himself to him.
I don't think you're capable of taking it over, pal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like, you go out there. I want to fucking see Vince McMahon get chucked from the top of the Hell in a Cell.
Or like that fucking 73-foot drop that like Steve Blackman hit him with the kendo stick.
Or go through fucking...
Did you remember that? Where he just
SummerSlam.
it was like
2000.
73 feet.
Yeah. The
Steve
the
Blackman.
real plates of glass.
Yeah, with Kurt
Yeah.
throwing through that shit. All right. Well, I adjusted one of my guys here for inflation because you already picked him, you know. So, Shane O'Mac or the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Dude.
We couldn't make it easy on you. The other one would have been easy on you.
This is the problem. I feel like their like character status of the Macho Man is like, he's one of the most legendary of all time.
Yeah.
You know? So like, just for that alone, it's hard to not say the Macho Man. Like, I love Shane. Like, personally, Shane, to me, I hold Shane in probably a much higher echelon than a lot of wrestling fans do. But I'll probably have to say Macho Man. Slightly.
Yeah.
Shane's me to say it. But yeah, probably.
All right, well, it's even so far. Next up, we got Shane McMahon or The Big Show.
Oh, damn.
Showtime!
The big bad show, man.
The Giant. Paul White.
Fucking legend, too, though. That's the thing. Dude, I loved The Big Show. But, like, I feel like
What was your favorite era of him?
he was another one. He always got fucked over. Big Show got fucked constantly. I don't know. Probably like, if I could say like late 90s through mid 2000s, I'd probably say that. But that's a long time to choose. But oh man, that being said, I might have to fucking lean Shane O'Mac a little bit.
Here comes the money. I get that.
He had way less of a career to go off of. That's the thing though too. But just he had so many highlight reel moments, man. And Big Show, a lot of Big Show's highlight reel moments were fucking snipped off the fucking cutting board because they fucked him. It's just like, oh, you're gonna lose this big match. You're gonna lose this one.
It started to become like really impressive, and they'd act like every time like it was such a big threat. It's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen when he faces the Big Show? It's like the same thing that always happens. They're probably gonna whoop his ass, and he's like 3 times heavier than they are.
I feel like the most believable, dominant Big Show was like obviously like the early Giant WCW, but also probably like 02 to 04 in WWE. He was pretty damn.
That's true.
Like
01 even, he was pretty fucking. He was huge.
Yeah, he held the belt there for a while. He was feuding with Lesnar. Paul Heyman sided with him.
Yeah, that was a big one when he won the belt there.
Yeah, that was probably his best era.
Yeah, that was whenever he was like presented as a threat and not just a like throwaway. They did screw him over though for sure.
He's a legend.
Taking Shane O'Mac. Next up we got Shane McMahon or Hardcore Holly.
Shane McMahon.
Hardcore Holly was a man son of a bitch. No, I would probably take Shane too. But no, Hardcore was like, dude, Hardcore was a man son of a bitch, dude.
Hardcore too was hardcore. Like he was a tough motherfucker. That slice he took to the back and kept going. Yeah. Yeah. He was a true wrestler's wrestler. It felt like he was one of those kind of guys for sure.
Dude lived in the gym and had a fucking great physique too.
Yeah.
But his problem was he got kind of injured and his charisma wasn't terrible, but he had limitations.
That's the thing. He was a wrestler's wrestler. Yeah. He felt super impressive.
He was a great worker, which
physique is what he looked good in the ring, but he wasn't like super charismatic.
Yeah. He wasn't. I've seen like a lot worse.
Yeah.
Even from people that are bigger stars, but he was always a reliable worker. Like he wasn't gonna hurt you in the ring. Like he was gonna give you a good match, you know. But yeah, I liked Hardcore. But at the end of the day, I would probably say the same too. So what is that? Shane O'Mac up 3-1. Next up, we got Shane McMahon or Kofi Kingston.
Man, that's a tough one. It's hard to say because like I'm trying to still appreciate, and this sounds horrible. I'm trying to still appreciate like having Kofi right now. But, like, just the way he's been booked the past, like, 2 years, and just, like, the New Days died out, and, like, I don't really know. Maybe they're doing something with turning him heel. Maybe Big E will come back. I don't know what the fuck. But it just almost feels like one of those characters that, like, kind of overstayed his welcome, in a way. Like, I loved Kofi growing up. He was, like, one of my favorite, if not, like, my favorite mid-card talent at times. Like, I was always really into him. But it just feels like after his run with the WWE title, it was kind of like, okay, what the fuck are we doing with him now?
Yeah. And that's been over for a while now.
Yeah. That's 4 years? 5 years? Something like that?
He held it in 2019.
6 years? Yeah,
it's been a little over 5, yeah.
So... Man, it's tough to say. The one I did get on camera during a pay-per-view holding up a Kofi Kingston sign.
Really?
One time. Because he had some eras where I really was into Kofi, and then some eras where I was like, who could give a damn right now? You know?
Yeah, he was very, like... Even when he debuted, there was a lot of attention on him. I remember, like, the night he debuted on ECW.
Yeah. because all the promo packages like leading up to his debut, you're like, oh fuck.
That night was when they had some sort of a match, wasn't it? Like Punk and somebody in like there was like a throwing somebody in a lake match or some shit. It was like wherever they were,
maybe
throwing them in the it was something like that.
I'd probably say, fuck man. You know what? I think I'm gonna change my Big Show answer. Maybe I might actually slightly take the Big Show.
Over Shane O'Mac?
Maybe slightly, but then I think I gotta take Shane over Kofi. Then
It's up to you.
I think I gotta.
You gonna switch Big Show over him?
Yeah, man. Because as much as like Big Show's career was kind of tainted by his big match getting he lost. That wasn't Big Show's fault, man. And like every one of Shane's big matches he lost. So
yeah.
That was just Shane's thing though. I didn't hold Shane to a victory ever. It was kind of like Mick Foley. Like I didn't expect Mick to win the big one a lot. I didn't expect Shane to win the big one a lot. But I was always pumped to see the match because I knew some crazy shit was gonna go down.
He beat his dad at WrestleMania 17. And honestly, that was a tremendous match. It really was. I mean, it was mostly Shane just whooping the hell out of Vince.
That's how most Vince Mania matches went.
But honestly, he was in some pretty damn good ones. Like, that's what's wild. He was in that one with Hogan.
That was a damn good
He
one.
was in... Okay, and that Bret Hart one wasn't. But...
Yeah, he still got the shit kicked out of him in that one.
Yeah, he did. And then, what was the other one? Shawn. That was a tremendous match too. That was actually voted PWI Match of the Year that year. Shawn won it like seven years in a row into him retiring. From the time that it was maybe with Jericho or the triple threat with Benoit and Triple H all the way through when he retired. His Mania match or that one on Raw that he had with Cena, because that one on Raw won over their Mania one, which I agree with. Because it was like a damn near hour, and it was just an insane ending. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Shawn won that award like every year, pretty much, with Flair, with Taker, with Taker both years. He should have for sure. Unless they gave it to fucking somebody in TNA at that time, because they had some damn good matches there. All right, so we're gonna have Shane McMahon, and Shane O'Mac is up, I think 3-2.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Shane McMahon or Yokozuna.
Shane McMahon. I like Yoko though. He's another one that's kind of like a legend that I appreciate. Like, dude, just the fact that guy was as massive as he was, and he could work in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, he could put on a match, and like. Yeah, he was a Samoan playing a Japanese sumo wrestler, but still like. But he like looked the part. He did, and I liked the character actually. Like I kind of thought the character was like looking at it now, especially like going back and watching some Yokozuna stuff. It's like the shit looks classic as fuck. Yeah, it was a legendary character, and it just takes you back to that time. Mm-hmm. It's like he was. You know, that early to mid 90s kind of feeling. And he was one of the best from that era. He was of like an ancient, almost, maybe not ancient, but like in the wrestling realm, like era, like a bygone time, you know? Yeah. And like Taker was like really good friends with him. He had that kind of like, Taker and him were like real close. Those guys and like Godfather, they were all like good friends. Yeah, I really like Yoko. I would take Shane, though. Okay. Shane O'Mac or AJ Styles? Man, I'm going to piss some people off. Oh, speaking of this, though, Speaking of this, though, you said the Kofi sign. First time I got on TV when I was down and we saw, like, the multiple showings of TNA Impact when it was only 1 hour in 2006 in Florida. Yeah. When I first vacationed down there. I get on holding the Phenomenal One sign up, like in the
close to front row whenever they zoomed down the fucking thing, and me and Corey were both on it there, so I was like, that was but yeah, AJ was like, I mean, he was the man, like in TNA. In TNA's best era, he was the man. And, I mean, I was a huge AJ Styles fan. Like, I really wish, like, in his WWE career, has even been lengthy and a success. I do wish he had gone over in a lot more of the matches, like, that he has. Like, the big matches, That's one thing I will say.
Yeah, he got in a little late, and it feels like he's kind of took a background at this point, in a way.
He had a few, I mean, he's held the title a couple times.
I didn't necessarily probably, like, I've went back, and seen highlights and watched some of the matches, but I didn't necessarily, in his prime, I guess, see as much AJ. But, I mean, he is damn sure an impressive wrestler. If I was going on who's a better wrestler, I would obviously say AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. But personally, I'm probably gonna have to say Shane.
And they wrestled each other in that.
That was a great Mania match too.
That was the really opener too. Mm-hmm. That's dope.
That was one of the best matches from that Mania, I think. Mm-hmm. In all reality, that was like what, 33,
right? 2017, 33. The same when the Hardys came back, got that big ass pop. So Shane O'Mac over AJ.
I think so, yeah.
And here's where we I'll let you know where I inserted one, but I just left this one the same because you had Morrison as my main one, but I already had Morrison on my list, so I'm just gonna put Morrison up against Shane O'Mac, even though I don't know if you'll have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I'd have to say Shane.
Yeah. How much is he whooping ass right now?
I've only picked Macho Man and Big Show over. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you have anything to add to the way you view Johnny?
I mean, we talked about him quite a bit in the segment. I feel like when it comes to physique and look-wise, he was one of the best ever, probably. Like, he definitely knew what he was.
He knew how to get heat, too.
His character was great. Even when he was a good guy, like the fur coat and the glasses and, like, the slow-mo cam and the fans and stuff, like, I thought he was great. The glittered abs, like the bejeweled abs and stuff. Like,
he was an easy guy to boo when he was a heel. Like
I loved his character, honestly. Like, I really thought his look and who he was. Like, I'm like, he can really pull this off.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot, but just more like I have more heart and fond memories of just like, oh fuck, with like Shane, you know what I mean? Just growing up, and I don't know, I always basically going into a Shane McMahon match like buckled up like, oh fuck dude, there's gonna be some crazy shit that's probably gonna happen here. Yeah. And I almost was never disappointed. So it was like
he was part of, just because he faced some like credible names too, and like he had an era in like the late 90s too where he was wrestling guys like, Big Boss Man and fucking, you know what I mean, like other, like winning the hardcore titles. Yeah, like he would like win the hardcore title and shit like that.
The European title.
Yeah. So he had kind of a role active like on TV every week for a while, and then obviously it slowed down, and then he came back, and so you're taking Shane O'Mac, huh?
Yep.
All right. Next, we got Shane O'Mac or Mark Henry. Sexual chocolate.
It was like the worst era of Mark Henry.
No.
Yeah, what are we talking about? What would be a worse era of Mark Henry?
That was when he was dominant as fuck.
No. That's when he was.
That was gonna he
fucking Mae Young
impregnated Mae Young and gave birth to a hand.
Yeah, come on. That alone makes me say Shane McMahon.
That wasn't Mark's idea.
No. Honestly, the Hall of Pain Mark was sick.
Yeah.
That was probably the best Mark.
I'm glad that after years of like from like the mid to late 90s through all the way to the early 2010s, like he finally got his due and like won a few world titles.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he finally had his moment. That era of Mark was awesome, for sure. And honestly, like 2006 Mark was really good.
Yeah.
Feuding with Taker and stuff. That was probably his like 2 best sort of eras.
That casket match of Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mad. Mark he could work.
That's probably like a highlight reel for him. That's definitely his biggest Mania moment.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
dude, world's strongest man.
Yeah.
At least in '96.
Legitly was.
It was an important year.
It was. Yeah. That being said, Shane O'Mac.
All right, Shane O'Mac has
FTW.
whooped the ass of this gauntlet here. But we've got one more name.
You would think you would, though. You know me and Shane O'Mac, man.
Yeah. But I was like, whenever I thought of that, I was like, that's out of left field, but not necessarily like in your top. You know what I mean? I knew the way you felt about Shane, but I was like...
I mean, shit, man, he's probably top 20.
Next, we got one last one here. Not that it's going to move the needle dramatically. Shane O'Mac or X-Pac.
Dude, X-Pac was like...
He was a bad son of a...
He was perfect at being a little shit. You know what I mean?
He was such a great, like... He loved that crotch chop, man. Nobody loved it more than he did. He just...
He do it like 8 times in a row.
Oh,
yeah, he epitomized Attitude Era. You know what I mean? X-Pac.
Yeah.
It was him.
Well, and also, he was one of the only ones that, in the middle of it, flipped the script to the other show.
Yeah.
In like 97, and then he debuted right after, the day after Mania in 98 for like the company again, for WWF. So like he transitioned right in the middle of when WCW was at its hot streak and WWF was about to take over. Like it was, he lived a whole part of the era over here, and then, you know, so it's kind of like he saw everything of what the hell was going on.
It's kind of funny when you see him like modernly come back for things, because it's just like this guy, he was like the Attitude Era, so he just like his life, you lived like a rock star life. He'd been beaten by sex and drugs, and he's just like
he's doing good now.
But he looks like, it's like, oh yeah, you can tell this guy he's had some like fucking partying times.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? When you see him.
I was glad to have met him. Whenever like we did like I was gonna say there was either a Glory Pro show or, you know, like whenever KLD was like he had like Xbox stuff I think he was grabbing his stuff and like Xbox stuff, and then he told me to grab a suitcase, and I think that he did that because like I was going to the same like vehicle they were at, because KLD had to take Xbox back to the airport, and this is in like 2018, and so like I actually got to interact with him for like a few minutes, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know,
he seems like he'd be decent chat.
So, yeah, I mean, he's lived through some shit, that's for sure. Yeah. But I am glad that he is one of the other ones that before it all caught up with him too much and he was too far gone, like, he got himself together. And, like, he's actually living a pretty good life now, you know?
Yeah.
So, I'm like, I always liked X-Pac.
Yeah, me too.
Up, you know?
Yeah, I always respected the game for him. I'm like, he's a classic wrestler, for sure.
The 1-2-3 Kid.
Yeah.
The Kid faced Razor Ramon and upset him on fucking first goddamn Raw.
Yep. That was a classic match.
And like I guess in WCW he was called like Six or Six Pac or you know SYXX or something like that. But yeah, I'm and I definitely agree with that though. He definitely epitomized, like, not that like he was obviously like the forefront, but like he was a perfect representation of like what a character was like during that era. Just broke the fucking rules. It was just a motherfucker. But like he was always over, even at that time. You know what I mean? Like the crowd, one way or another, and like I feel like most of the time the crowd was favorable to X-Pac. Like even if he was leaning into heel, like there's just something likable about him. You know?
Yeah, he had the tiny guy thing going too, you know what I mean? So it's like unless he was being an annoying little shit, it was hard for him to be like,
he had a smaller build in an era where guys were still 6'5", 260, you know what I mean? Like, So,
all that said, giving him his flowers, I'm still gonna take Shane. I think.
I figured. But yeah, no, Shane whooped the ass this gauntlet for sure.
Yeah.
It was like 8-2, just an ass whooping. But I knew that could be the case once I put in Shane O'Mac. So.
Yep. It was, I gave the other guys all their credit as we went through, but it's hard for me to not take Shane. I have probably kind of a Shane bias, I guess, but it is personally who you're picking too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure that'll be one of the multiple times we have to go over wrestlers.
Yeah.
In this segment here. But that being said, I think it's time for a break. Come back in with at least a couple rounds of the good, the bad, and the shits.
Sounds good.
And we'll see everybody in a moment. Here comes the money. That's a legendary one, man. For your boy Shane O'Mac, your guy.
My guy. That he is.
Shane O'Mac. But anyways, it is now time for the good, the bad, and the shits.
Yes.
And we'll go down a little bit of Football Avenue, I think, a little bit before the night closes here.
Yeah, we might as well. Super Bowl's around the corner.
It is. We may get another chance to talk a little more before it's on. But this is our last, and now, whenever this comes out, I mean, Rumble already have happened, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or will be, that kind of, whenever, in the coming days. But we'll see what the hell happens with all of it.
Well,
what did you have?
Get into it? Yeah.
Let's jump in.
All right. Well, the stage is set once again. It's the exact thing I did not want to see. Once again, second year in a row. So, congratulations NFL for that. But that being said, we're leaving the AFC Championship with the Bills heartbroken again. And people complaining online about a couple calls, particularly. This has been happening basically every Chiefs game at this point. So I guess my topic would just be, what would be your take on bad refereeing in the NFL?
I mean, they're not going to get every call right, but what I will say, referring to as recently as the Bills-Chiefs, and I wanted the Bills to win, but from the get in that game, Josh Allen was lucky that he didn't throw a couple more interceptions. A few of those throws look sketchy as fuck.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, that game didn't have anything, not that I'm a Chiefs defender or anything, but everything that happened in that game, it did not feel like the Bills, they never really had control and an upper hand in that game. And it didn't feel like any call that I saw, at least in that one, maybe in previous Chiefs games, some things in the Texans game. I don't think anything that was called in the Bills-Chiefs game was consequential enough to it have cost Buffalo the game. Because, frankly, they got outplayed. They shrunk Buffalo.
It was
in
close.
That game.
It was still very close.
It was,
but
they shrunk them down. It didn't look like the Bills with Josh Allen in recent weeks.
They didn't ever have a clear-cut advantage. There was never that moment where you were like, oh man, the Bills have got this one.
And there was bad officiating in the Texans-Bills game, but if people are trying to sell, Texans-Chiefs. If people are trying to sell me that game was in hand somehow of the Texans before those bad calls, they weren't. The Texans weren't going to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen.
It didn't feel super likely.
And
as much as we could have hoped.
I did think I did think the Bills stood a better chance, obviously. But, and I told somebody before that I'm not saying this is the way it should be. There should be fair officiating. But it's kind of like Floyd Mayweather won over 50, something fights in his lifetime, never fucking lost one. So my view also is if, say by the time Floyd won 42 fights and he was about to have his next one, he had knocked out some people, a lot of them were decisions, whatever. He fights the next guy and he's 42-0. Just an outstanding fucking record. And he's proven himself already.
Yeah.
If the decision at the end of the game is close, it's going to him.
That's just how boxing is anyway.
But that's my point. If the call is close and it's the Chiefs' ball or this or that, they're probably going to give the better calls to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They're, what I'm saying, they're holding the fort down as the central team right now in football. They're put at the forefront of everything.
Yeah. I get, because, boxing, it really is like that. The same thing with, if it comes to a decision on a fighter that's undefeated, or especially on a fighter that is champion, if you didn't clearly kick the guy or girl's ass, you're not getting the belt. You're not getting the win.
It's kind of like you won, but if you didn't actually defeat somebody, you're not gonna win the title. You know what I mean? You're not. It's not gonna be.
It's still kind of a.
It needs to be
had a fair
definitive.
Fight, 12 rounds,
yeah, it needs to be. And it doesn't mean it needs to be an ass whooping, but it needs to be definitive that you outplayed them, outmatched them, beat them. You know what I mean? It has to be clear, because a close call, it's not gonna go your way.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying the officiating isn't bad whatsoever, or that it sometimes it hasn't been a little bit seemingly biased towards the Chiefs, or if Mahomes tries to manipulate the ref into giving him a rule, giving him a call against the other team. But we've even seen some of that ridiculous stuff. But I'm also not sold that anything that happened in the Texans game and the Chiefs, and I'm not a Chiefs fan. I don't hate them, but I'm not a big fan of them either. I'm just not sold that either one of those games, either team convincingly looked like they could have or were going to beat the Chiefs, or that the calls that were made that people are blaming the loss on, that they were consequential to that team losing. I don't buy that at all. Yeah. I'm not saying all the calls were right, but I don't buy that the Chiefs were outplayed and they should have lost those two games, if that's remotely part. And I'm not saying I wanted them to win, obviously. You know that. We were talking about the same, but I am not sold that that's, because some of that actually, the leniency and giving the calls to them and them kind of forcing, kind of the refs to give more calls by kind of manipulating the gameplay in certain ways. Or when Mahomes gets pushed out and then he throws himself to the ground. I'm just not sold that at least anything, and yeah, there were calls also that were suspect and questionable throughout the season. But as far as them getting to the Super Bowl once they played these two games, which they already had a bye because they were 15-2, and really actually were only beaten once because they rested all their starters. What do you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
They didn't care. They could sacrifice it. But I'm just not sold on the narrative that any of those calls, even if some of them were suspect, that anything about the way those games played out, that those teams would have beaten them. This year, in the way they played those games, I'm not. It just
feels like
it didn't feel
this season more than any season in the past, even. Kind of a lot of the wins have been squeaked through. They're beating teams by 7 or less. A lot of times a field goal. So it's that's why I feel a lot of times people can have that narrative of, oh, motherfucker, blah, 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 because games are won so close.
Mm-hmm.
And any time that a game is so close, the losing team can look back at a couple plays and be like, man, if this went differently, so that's what people are doing.
But the other thing is, if you had turnovers, there's your chance. You blew it.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I'm saying, oh, something happens towards the end of the game. If you made mistakes in the middle of the game, you know, you might be lucky the score isn't worse than one score.
Yeah.
Like, so those are the things I think also, like, you know, like, there's accountability too. It doesn't always come down. People act like it always comes down to the end of the game. Even if the end of the game is a difference of 6 points, even 3 sometimes, it doesn't mean that it was like, oh man, this was well in hand. Like, what are the stupid decisions that you made? Or like, did you know, have the ball and did you turn over a couple times? Like, did you even give yourself a chance to win the game? Or did you lose yourself the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not always like, oh, like, you know, especially like, I think you got to look at some of the mistakes that teams made too, and like that's I was not even trying to be critical, but when that started, he had like a couple passes that were like, I almost was like, that was almost an interception first fucking thing, like Josh. I was like, what the hell is he doing? Like, it didn't even feel like him like that much. He didn't play a horrible game, but it was just like, it just didn't feel like. Once again, the Chiefs figure out a way to exploit your weakness, and they shrink you into just being, and then they just have their fucking way. Yeah. I'm like, they just figure out a way for you to not be your best. Like,
I was like, man, what? Because once again, he beat them in the regular season straight up.
I'm not convinced, even if they make it next year.
And it's like, man, what is going on? At the beginning of the game, I even kind of felt that, where I was like, oh no, like, we can't be having this like this, you know?
Yeah.
And then
the energy didn't even feel right for Buffalo. Like,
it just never got better. It was just, I mean, they did keep it close. It was a tight game, but they never had the game firmly in hand. Where, like, they never really, did they take the lead?
I don't think so.
Often, like, I don't really remember.
I don't remember them taking a lead.
So, I don't know. It was a close game. You can't help. That's the thing. You really can't help but feel bad for the Bills fans at this point. You're like, man.
Yeah. Man,
every year you guys like have a promising team. Like, how?
Even if the Bills next year finish 14-3 and the Chiefs finish 9-8, if they meet in the playoffs, I'm still taking the Chiefs. At this point, you can't convince me like this too. You can't convince. I'm like, it's gonna be the same fucking result. Like, again, I can't believe I bought into it again this year. I swirled in that last year after it already happened multiple times, and I hate saying this, but I told myself last year, I was just like, I'm not going to fall for that shit again. They can't beat them. And then I fell for it all over again this year, and I convinced myself that they were going to... It's probably because I was right on the Ravens. I was right that the Bills would beat... who'd they fucking eliminate first?
Damn. Who did they play in the first game?
Oh, Denver. Beat the shit out of them. We watched them.
Denver and
I was convinced. I was just like, after
Baltimore,
the Ravens
was a big win.
Yeah.
Too.
I shouldn't have talked myself into it. First instinct's usually always right. Should not have fucking.
But that was also hopeful thinking, because I was just like, I really didn't want to believe again that the Chiefs would do it. It's like, man, just give me something new.
Yeah. And that's what I'm afraid of with Philly. I'm like, they have such a high-powered offense. This fucking Chiefs team is going to figure out a way. Like, I think regardless, Barkley's scoring, but, like, I think they can apply pressure to, like, shrink other parts of their offense. Like, no matter what, Barkley, I'd be surprised if he didn't get in the end zone and score a touchdown at least twice in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because he's that good right now. Now, me drafting him early next year, probably not, because I don't want to take the risk on. I like him, and he's a great player, but he's already been injury prone, just like McCaffrey. I ain't fucking touching either one of them with a 10-foot pole. No chance in fantasy football.
Yeah, that's...
So I really hope neither one of them fall to me. Just
it's hard
grab
to
them.
say. I mean, if you get the chance, it's going to be hard not to.
I'm not taking McCaffrey if I do it. I would much rather take Saquon.
Yeah. McCaffrey could have a bounce back year, or he could be done. So you never know.
There's no way I would chance it. No way.
I would take him over a lot of other guys. But yeah, so bad refereeing, what would you say? You think that the claim of it is overrated? I mean, I definitely think that the officiators like don't always get shit right. Sometimes they do fuck things up and calls are like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Depending the output of like the actual outcome of the game, come on. You know, we can't always be saying this all the time. Like, I know that it's really been heavy on the Chiefs this year, and I don't know if that's because they're kind of in their villain stage now.
They weren't for a long, just like the first probably 3 Super Bowls the Patriots won, and then after that people, but they didn't win one for a while. But people were like, okay, they really started getting villainized when they weren't winning because they had previously won so much. It's kind of like how this, if this Chiefs team got stopped this year, people would still be cheering against them now. They've built up just a wall of people that don't want to see the Chiefs. That villainy would probably last the next 3 years to even, at least, because people would be like, oh, I'm tired of it, But now that they've won 3, and especially in as short of a timeline as they have, that's what they're paying. But they weren't at first. They were a small market. Oh shit, this young kid. Oh, and then everybody was cheering for him. They're like, holy fuck, this is great. This is a great team.
The Mahomes Brady Super Bowl was like really a fresh thing.
That was dope.
Like, oh, this young kid, and then like the old vet is like there with a new team. And
even Mahomes' first Super Bowl win with the Chiefs when he beat the Niners.
Yeah.
Like that, everybody was like,
that was a big one.
Everybody was, thought he was fantastic. I mean, and they still do, obviously, but like everybody was just singing the high praises.
I already was not bought into him
for his future. Well, I mean, that didn't turn out to be a good.
No, I mean, I'm bought into him as a player. Yeah. Like, obviously, Patrick, I'm just, as the Chiefs, I was like already like, I'm not a fan. So I can honestly say they were never my team.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never going to be that guy. And then when everybody, because that was around the year when everybody was like, and became Chiefs fans around here. And it made me dislike
It's our team. It's a Missouri team. That's what I heard all the time.
No.
But
they never were. Unless you grew up liking the Chiefs. I know John Bunch, he grew up a Chiefs fan. When we were like kids, he actually was into the Chiefs. So I'd give him the slide.
I don't like I don't like everybody blaming everything on. It's like if it's like a 1-score game, people are like, oh man, if this would have been different. It's like, dude, man, sometimes it's what I've said a million times. I'm like, sometimes your team just fucking lost. Like, stop. It's every game. It's gotten more ridiculous now than ever. And I'm not saying that there aren't bad calls, but like, I've already explained my case for like the 2 games they just played. Like, if they had been thoroughly outplayed and something was suspect, I'd be like, this is a little weird because they fucking got whooped the whole. They weren't convincingly. They're playing their best ball now, again in the playoffs when it matters. And I'm like, it's fucking frustrating, but it keeps happening. And even if they're lackluster, like people want to say all the time, they're like, oh man, they didn't even do that good. They're like 8th best in the league this year. It's like, it doesn't matter. They're going to play first fucking best in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They rise to the occasion every year. Even if they had a mediocre season and not up to like what their standards are,
Yeah.
But once again, I'm not convinced that those would have been different. I mean, there are calls and some of them that seem to lean towards the Chiefs, and like I know that that happens, but especially with either those two, I'm not convinced of that. Those 2 games in particular. Definitely there are some games where some weird shit happened during the season, maybe. But I don't think it's every close game, and I think people have got to stop fucking calling bullshit on every close game loss. Like every 1-score loss, let's put it that way. By when I say close game, that's a really close game. But like every close game wasn't, oh man, it was well in your hand. It's like, what the hell happened up to that point? Yeah. Did you fuck up multiple times and turn the ball over? Did you fumble? Did you miss a field goal? Did you know what I mean? Like,
anything.
Like, because if you fucked up It didn't come down to, oh man, they fucked us, why don't we score the game? No, you missed multiple opportunities where you could have scored.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always.
That's definitely what it comes down to, really.
Yeah.
Like, and I definitely do believe NFL officiating more than probably anything.
Mm-hmm.
Any other officiators of any league do miss calls. You know, they fuck things up.
And it should be probably even a little better than it is, but at least we have the ability to review it, and you know what I mean. Like it still feels like it's hard to escape it's hard to kind of have a definitive, like observation of what happens without them looking at it in multiple angles and there's the call on the field and then like how does this look like? It always seems like you're setting everybody up to be like, if it doesn't go their team's way, then they're gonna think they got fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the way everybody kind of interprets it. But
yeah,
it's hard to have a completely nonpartisan or seeming nonpartisan person call it down the middle, because people are always going to think if it didn't go their way, they got fucked.
Well, that's the thing, too. If you are a fan of a team or you really dislike a team and you really want to see somebody win or you really want to see somebody lose and it doesn't go that, and it's a super close game and it doesn't go the way that you want it to, and there were a couple shaky calls that could have kind of gone one way or another, you're like, the refs fucked this game up, like
it's been so
immediately
ridiculous
what
this
you'll
year.
think. The refs are they're the scapegoat for sure. So
it's what people can blame it on rather than just admit that their team got outplayed, outmatched, beat down.
I wouldn't say beat down, it's 3 points.
No, I'm not saying it about that Bills game. I'm just saying anytime they lose. And like they fucking lost, the Texans lost by double digits. They weren't.
Well, still, there were some fucking shit calls.
There
in
were.
that game, but it's
there
not
wasn't
like it
enough
to change the outcome.
There wasn't enough. And if it doesn't change the outcome, then what are you bitching about? Because I'm like, that's ultimately what it. People are just mad because it didn't go their way. It's like,
Well, they're mad because it's the Chiefs. If we're being real.
Well, that's true. But like, no, you notice that like nobody called really any bullshit calls in any team that wasn't the Chiefs this year. You didn't hear a word about it.
Yeah.
Nobody even remembers. Besides if it was a Chiefs game.
That's because people are done with it.
Well,
like,
no, but that is what biased is.
Yeah.
You're saying, you're like, fucking, it's nobody else, but it's like those games. Oh, when we play them, though.
The fucking refs.
Yeah.
The refs are bought off. Haven't you seen the comments?
Yeah, a bunch of fucking nitwits, man.
Taylor Swift is the fucking media circus, and she has all the money, so she's paying them off. Roger Goodell wants the Chiefs to win because all the media's with the Chiefs.
So
all the theories are out there.
So the Buffalo Bills, they were on board with this, throwing the game to let the Chiefs win.
No, they weren't on board. There's nothing they can do about it.
The Texans, they were on board.
They don't know about it. Nobody knows
about
about it, bro.
I'm not.
There's
sold.
nothing you can do about it.
I'm not sold.
Didn't you hear Joe Mixon?
And you shouldn't be either. Well, you, but like also anybody listening.
Didn't you hear Joe Mixon? After the game, he's like, we know when we come into Arrowhead, you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs and you're going to have to deal with the refs. He's like, I'm not the only one that thinks this. Everybody thinks this.
Why? I don't know.
Fuck them.
I'm not, like I said.
I really don't care who wins the Super Bowl at this point. It's neither of the teams that I wanted to be in there at all.
Yeah.
Are in there. So at this point, whatever happens, happens, man.
No, I honestly, like, I feel like I've got
to. Gonna three-peat.
They're going to. I've got to put some money on this game because it's the only thing that's going to really help it for me and me to be more invested, I feel like. I mean, I'm going to watch it regardless, but, like, if I have stakes in the game and, bet on touchdowns or whatever else, then I'm going to be like I'm in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It'll just be entertaining. Plus, it's the last football game of the year, But, yeah, I don't know. I think it could easily happen, and people are still hanging on, and just like that, I'm just like the officiating thing. They're like, oh man, no, I think the Eagles are gonna. And I'm like, stop. We've been down this fucking road. I don't know how many times. Knock it off. Stop. They're not going to win. And like, I hope that I eat my words on here, but like, I don't think they're going to. I think the Chiefs are gonna win another Super Bowl.
I do too. Yeah.
And it's knock it off. Nobody can stop them.
Unfortunately, I just hope that this is it. There's no fucking 4 Super Bowls. Fuck you.
Dude,
fuck
Josh Allen has now had the 4 falls to the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just never gotten past them.
Fuck him.
The 4 falls of Allen. The 4 fails. No, dude, I like Josh, and I like the Bills, but like, goddamn, like, you know, nobody when the league's been like this team, the O-line especially too, like everything has been rebuilt even since Mahomes has been there like 3 fucking times already with Tyreek, and then he left, and then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt was there, and now he's back, and it's just like they're still getting to the biggest game every year and winning the biggest
with
game.
whatever team, and they've got a dangerous
and
team
an aging Kelsey.
They've got on that offense though. That team is dangerous.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Kelsey, Worthy,
Pacheco,
Hunt, Hopkins, freaking Hollywood Brown. Like,
they got some fucking nasties, man. They'll knock you on your ass.
It's gonna be could be a long day out there for the Eagles. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm not.
And you know, I don't. Actually, I'm not gonna say that I really don't like the Eagles. I mean, I don't. So it's like I was gonna say, you know, I don't hate the Eagles, but
no,
maybe I do.
You'd prefer the Eagles probably to beat the Chiefs still.
I don't give a fuck, dude. I honestly don't. Like,
I feel like you do. Not that you do, because like I know, especially because the Eagles are like what the Cowboys' biggest rival, right?
they might be the Commanders probably.
So your natural inclination is not to root for them, but it's a matter of basically, do you want the three-peat stopped or not?
I don't care, because they're this close now. If it happens, it feels inevitable. I really don't care.
We're never gonna hear the end of it when they win next year either.
So like,
and you know what's more frustrating? They're gonna be able to say they were right, like the fans that are actually fans and been in the because not only last year did they doubt that and they're like, you guys have not been as good as they have been. Everybody bitch, complained, the refs, the rigging, the this, the that. They're not as good, and they won by 1-score games. And if they win on top of all the bitching from last year and then this year too, like it's gonna be just endless. They're going to flaunt it. They're gonna say fucking the greatest team ever. They're gonna probably call Pat the greatest player ever. Which even if he three-peats, I don't consider him the GOAT. I'm just gonna put that out there. And I'm not saying it because I don't like him, but he's not. And even he would say
this season was not a GOAT style season.
Even he would say, well, I've still got 3 shy of even what Tom has to pass him. He's like, I'm probably not that, he did something Tom's never done. But the other things that Tom will always have on him, that AFC Championship game where they beat him in overtime when he goes on the Patriots, when they outplayed him, and that Super Bowl they, faced the Rams. Mm-hmm. The AFC Championship game was much better than the damn Super Bowl. It was, against Mahomes, they went to overtime when he was on the Pats. And then whenever he beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl, he'll always have that over, Mahomes. And nobody can even be like, oh man, but he was young. He was playing great football already by then.
He came out of college playing great.
So but he'll have those things on him. But obviously Brady will never have three-peated, so it'll definitely inch closer. And I don't even necessarily know that he'll have to beat him for them to start. We're still, in my opinion, we're still a while away from even saying that. Half the Chiefs fans, at least, are going to say that he probably is now if they win. But just know that they're wrong. So, as long as we got that out there.
Yeah.
He's not the GOAT yet, even if he gets the three-peat.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's kind of what I was talking to somebody the other day. Might have been, I don't know, but I was saying like it feels like who you grow up with is kind of who you feel is the GOAT. So you have like kids now that are watching football and stuff and are into it, are like Mahomes is the GOAT, you know. But like I grew up with Brady and like I saw that dynasty in that era and I'm like, man, it's him. I'm like, it has to be him. You know, like, and I mean, Mahomes, yeah, he still has a chance to definitely get there. But I also feel like it is revolvent around stat lines too, not just championships.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think so too.
That's a big part of it too. And I'm not going to discredit some of his earlier seasons for sure, because he had some great earlier seasons. But like, I feel like the last 2 years he's played a lot more reserved.
Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, their defense has gotten a lot better, and he has no deep threat, and he's gotten, you know what I mean? Like, they don't really...
He's got like, yeah, he's got Hollywood Brown back now and D-Hop on the team, and I feel like they're like loading up receivers, but he still just feels like he's not like as much of a gunslinger quarterback as like
I don't think he needs to be.
This season is like a Lamar, or, you know, obviously like a Burrow or an Allen or any of those guys.
I don't think he's needed to be that though. He knows what his role is. That's the thing. And like if he's got to play more reserved, you know, I mean, regardless of what he did, they got themselves in the Super Bowl again, whether we like it or not. But mine floats right into this. So, like you said, bad officiating.
Yep.
I recognize. So, in short, I recognize that it happens. But you're gonna get some calls, and you're not. But I state my case already with the Mahomes Chiefs thing. You know, with my analogy with the boxing.
Yeah.
And no, like I really feel like that's honestly part of it too.
I mean, yeah.
But I also just like I said earlier, I'm not convinced on like the games that we recently saw that there was enough to say that it would have been any different based on especially a call or two or whatever.
I know that Worthy catch was kind of bullshit.
I was gonna say there was a couple moments, but I'm like I didn't see. There wasn't much in Buffalo that game that made me feel like they were remotely outplaying the Chiefs. You know what I mean?
I know everybody complained about the fourth down too. Whenever like Allen ran on the 4th and inches or whatever, and they didn't give it to him, but it was like, okay, yeah, it kind of looked like maybe he did, but like, bro, it was not definitive at all. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can't make it definitive when it's 4th and inches, that's enough to turn the fucking ball over.
Yeah.
Like
they played just too loose and kind of sloppy at moments of that game though. Like Buffalo they didn't look the same as they looked in recent weeks, like against anybody. You know what I mean? Like whenever it came time to and that's the sad. Like I wanted them to win that game, but what I watched wasn't, you know, wasn't the best Bills like ball either.
No.
So.
Which is a bummer too, man, because they played some great games this year. Like probably the 3 best of the season. Well, some of the best of the season.
They had a storied season for sure.
But again, fucking, you know, Emperor Patrick Mahomes, like fucking Palpatine coming in here and just ending the goddamn dreams.
So I don't know what that would put me at. Is like, I mean, there are some, you know, bad calls, but you're gonna get that because they're imperfect.
Blaming it on that all the time.
I mean, maybe that's, I guess, fair, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's, you're gonna have to say that.
Because it does happen in that league more probably than most sports leagues.
Yeah. Mine goes right into the Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes thing in a way. But let's just say dynasties, but in football, not taken into other. Obviously, there's dynasties in college and the NBA. There's been more than any other league. Well, really, if you wanted to take the NFL championship before it was the Super Bowl, I mean, the Packers won 3 back-to-back from like 1927 to like 29, and then like 65 to 67, they won 3 in a row. Packers won 3 in a row 2 different times, but it was pre-Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
And they won, they won multiple.
Yeah, the Browns were good back then too.
Mm-hmm. And that was even in like the 60s. So like I guess this first Super Bowl was played in like the late 60s.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would add up. Yeah, it was like the Packers were great like right up until that. Like after they like three-peated, they're like, all right, well we're gonna announce the biggest championship ever, the Super Bowl.
Well, they
next year, and the Packers like,
first,
what the fuck?
They went to the first 2 of them.
Wasn't it like Chiefs Packers first one or some
Yeah.
shit? That's dope.
Yeah. That was the iconic picture of Lynn Dawson, the Chiefs quarterback, sitting on the sideline. He had like a Fanta or something, like a soda, sitting there fucking smoking a cig, like on the bench during the Super Bowl.
That's hilarious. But I would say, I haven't even given you mine, have I?
Dynasties in football.
Yeah, dynasties in football.
Yeah, I mean, I respect them. Like, I have never cheered for the dynasties, necessarily, since I've been around. Like, the Patriots and the Chiefs dynasties, I wasn't really a fan of either of them. You know, I wasn't like, yeah, let's go. There was like a time or two during the Patriots run where I happened to just root for them during the Super Bowl, though, where I was like, all right, I guess I'll go them this time. Like, because I didn't know. Like, that's kind of how I feel with the Chiefs this time. I'm not necessarily rooting them, but I'm not rooting against them this Super Bowl. Really, I feel like I'm just like, okay, you know, like, if they win, I won't be really upset. It's just I feel like it's inevitable, you know? Like, but yeah, I respect a dynasty. Like, it's if it's one of your teams too, it's never. That's the thing is, I've never been alive for it to be one of my teams to where I'm like, dude, this is sick.
Didn't the Cowboys win? Well, I mean, I know we weren't like born.
They had it. They had one.
Didn't they win 3 in the 90s?
Yeah, like the early.
Was
90s.
it only 3?
3 in a row, yeah, but they won with Staubach too back in the day in like the 70s. They won 6 all time. But
yeah, it's been.
You know, Staubach.
See, they were that
to
team.
Gloryland.
They were that team to people. They were like, fucking, I'm tired of these sons of bitches.
Now, yeah, that'll be like people will be happy as hell that the Patriots probably won't be good for a minute. I mean, Drake May's good.
They got Vrabel. I mean, they might like win some more games for sure next
year. Yeah, upcoming year.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
They have the pieces to. I'm not saying to like go. You know, it's maybe not win like multiple playoff games yet or anything, but they could like 100% finish. Like I could 100% see them finishing at least like 9-8 even, or you know maybe win 10 games potentially or 11, depending on how good this works out and how good Drake May or how quickly he comes along. You know.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like they have elements now that'll give them a little more promise than they've had the last like 3 years for sure.
Yeah, I kind of want to see Drake have some success. He seems like a decent dude.
And nobody's down on the Patriots right now because, well, that's the thing. Everybody's down, so like nobody's like wanting to hold them down. Everybody's just kind of like, they're down there. That don't really matter. So like they have nothing to fucking lose. All they have to do is move up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have no pressure on them. Like they're, you know.
Yeah.
But nobody's really bullying them either because they haven't been good in like several years.
Yeah, they had a couple of years of promise after Tom. Like a year or two, Mac Jones was good.
He played.
He was good. He got to the playoffs a couple of years.
The first year, I think he was in the league, he got him to the playoffs, but then Belichick started to fucking lose.
Magic.
He started to lose it. Their defense right now is still good, but their offense has been piss poor the last 2 years.
They put up like under 10 a lot.
Yeah, you can't. You guys are looking like they've never fucking scored before.
It's like, bro, this is a high school fucking offense playing in the NFL. Can't score fucking anything.
Oh, man.
No, a dynasty, man, I feel like it's fair. I'd say it's fair because nobody really like. I mean, people do shit on it, but they shit on it. The people that shit on it are because they're mad at it.
Yeah.
And you're mad at things because it's kind of, you know, as Reggie Jackson once said, fucking, you don't boo nobody. So, like,
No, people, honestly, and that's a real, I'm not even trying to sound, like, hateful the other way around, but, like, no, that's a big part of it. People are fucking mad because there's winners, and they keep winning and winning and winning, and people get jealous and they get pissed about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, and so people look for any excuse to say, you know, once again, I'm not saying there's been no calls against it, but the fact is people like want to make up any, it's anything but your team fucking failed to beat the other team. It's always all the refs or, oh, if the weather wasn't so shitty, if, dude, if it has to be, that's what your team isn't. If they're an if, they fucking aren't. Like, they aren't about it. If the circumstances have to be fucking just right for them to be able to win.
Yeah.
Then they're not like the high caliber winners you think they are. You know, I had to endure fucking multiple playoff losses like was it the same damn day? Yeah, it was fucking brutal.
Back to back.
Had to endure semifinals fantasy losses the same day. See, that was brutal too. Oh man.
Well, yeah, last year I had my hopes slashed back-to-back days.
But, you know, they didn't get it done. But I don't know. But that is a big thing, too. And that's why people, like, but whether people like it or not, it's that polarization thing, that, like, John Cena thing. Like, boo or hate, you know, people will show up. Like, you know that if people give a shit, like, you're doing something right. Because half the people might show up and boo the fuck out of them. But the other half are going to cheer them. But, like, guess what? Everybody's going to be watching.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing about a dynasty, too. Or like the Bulls. Like, I'm sure when Michael Jordan was fucking laying it down. Yeah. Laying it down. But they were, as far as all the fantasies and all sports go, they were one of the more beloved ones.
Yeah.
Out of all those.
But people did still, like, cheer the underdog a lot in the finals.
Yeah.
Well,
like, fuck them.
Cool to see somebody beat
the
them.
best player of all time fucking is going to throw this in your goddamn faces. And he fucking did. But no, that was, I mean, that must have been dope as shit to watch. Like Michael Jordan play live.
Oh, yeah. It was probably definitely an era.
Yeah.
You know?
But, you know, you want us, that team becomes so polarizing, it's hard to deny. A weird thing happens when you become that big. It's like, you become so polarizing that, like, I mean, you know, a lot of them just absolutely want to see you fail. And, like, but that's the fact, is they'll show up and they'll watch. Because of that.
Yeah. That's, a dynasty is kind of like, you know, like the undefeated fighter or whatever, where it's just like, at a point, people are just like, people are tuning in to see him get beat eventually, you know,
because they know eventually they will, more than likely.
Like, it's gotta happen, man. Fuck this person. They're kicking everybody's ass, walking away smiling with the fucking championship all the time. Fuck them.
But like, if it had been randomly, you know, like Denver and fucking who's a team to put them against? Like if the Falcons and Denver had made the playoffs this year somehow and been in the Super Bowl, I guarantee it doesn't get anything close to what the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl is about to get. And I'm not even pumped necessarily that it's those two teams, but because of the dynasty and all the factors like weighed into it, people are gonna fucking watch it. If it was too like kind of offbeat, where the fuck did this come from? And not like the Rams Bengals one, because Joe was emerging and Stafford had just gone to so that had like a storyline going into it, and obviously did a good rating. But like the you know, like if it was two weird markets or like teams you didn't expect, it probably would not have done that good of a rating. But like now, there's gonna be a fuckload of people that are like ready to see the three-peat or ready to just finally see them be beat, which probably won't happen, but they're gonna want to see it.
They'll tune in for it.
Yeah. And believe me, I wouldn't mind seeing them get beat, but I'm not gonna hold my breath because I have eyes and I've seen the Chiefs beat everyone. So
I know.
It's the fact of life.
It's unfortunate.
Death, taxes, and the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, those are late.
Yeah.
That's how it's felt.
Oh man. Well, you have anything to
shall
add?
See. No, like I said, I would probably say fair for that I'm never, because it hasn't been one of my teams since I've been alive, but like I've never really like cheered a dynasty team, but as a sports fan I have to respect dynasties because I'm like, I mean, they get it done year after year after year. It's like, that's impressive. It's hard to get to the championship, let alone win it all the time. If you can do that, like if you can do that for a run of years where you can almost like, your team is almost like an encapsulation when you're thinking back on like the decade, your team is included in that, like that's something special. You know what I mean? The Patriots had that in the 2000s and even into the 2010s, and the Bulls definitely had that in the 90s, and
the Warriors, they were fucking dominating theirs. Didn't they win like 4?
Yeah.
That team was
the
insane.
2020s, we're gonna have the fucking Chiefs, man. So, I mean, something, I feel like people look back on it and give it more of a nod of respect than what's happening now because we're living in it. I remember this with the Patriots. I remember the hate, they're cheating, they're fighting the fucking balls.
All that shit went
calling
fucking
that
nowhere.
stuff out. And yeah, I remember all that. So,
see, they always try to
the
accuse the dynasties of doing
you
shit.
look back now and like people, for the most part, you still see hateful comments about it, but like for the most part, people respect, you know, Brady and Gronk and Edelman, like the guys on that team, like people give a nod of respect to those guys. So I think that like eventually people will look back on the Chiefs dynasty too and be like, oh, they're a special team. That was a special era. It is a special era of football. Travis Kelce's like one of the first in a while to like transcend. He feels like a celebrity on the field. He's dating like one of the biggest pop stars in the world. It just feels like it is kind of like a special time for that team.
Yeah.
They've never had something like this. So, and they won't ever again.
Yeah.
So this is their run, man. This is their era. This is their dynasty.
We'll see what happens.
And they're probably going to win the Super Bowl.
Yep. Probably win another one. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 164.
Yes.
As we return to solo form. And we will be seeing you next episode. Till then, take care of yourselves and have a good week.